Hi. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. All good, Nelly? You ready to start soon? Just doing a test now. Testing, 1, 2, 3. So you might be quite is that for this So I mean, I think it works. I'm sure people will comment saying I want to hear it. Because I can't find something in my speakers. Oh no, that's fine. You took my speakers, so I can't hear it now. I'm sure you can hear. Oh, it's what? Oh, it's not this one. It's like it's I tried that too. I saw it went off. And I went, nah, it's all too hard. No, everything else.
Yeah, it's actually cold enough. It's going to be today. Start with a bit more. I'll get some more snow. Get there. Hamlet's got land up here low. Yeah. First country is going to call it.
No, I'm just.
To get that in the it's not so I hang on,
You
let me move into a better position. Yeah. Something like So you kind of found that back then it was in time with all of the police and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, right. Swung past once or twice there, yeah. We were up the other end. I didn't spend much time at the actual show. I was more part of it, planning and yeah. Yeah, no, we were happy. Yeah. It's my first year doing the boat show. The job, the show, or an event. But yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I used to do motor shows and all that sort of stuff. So no stranger to this space. But it's been a while since I've been in Melbourne. Yeah. I've been in Sydney 15 years. Just moved back. Back in the AFL.
Anyone that's streaming.
So Moose Marine who said hello, but they can hear you.
Do you know how many are?
5. So maybe if you want to ask them to say who they are, maybe say comment who you are.
Any idea what
It's 3 times.
Hi everyone. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot. You guys coming in or? Oh, good one there. Okay, everyone. Thanks a lot for attending. This is 4.5% up on our usual number, so that's pretty good. We like the hard data. We're going to give you some more tonight. Some of it positive, some of it okay. I think I know everyone. I'm Steve Walker, CEO here at BIAV. We'll do a quick whip around, given we've only got 20 odd people. We'll be able to do that quickly. We welcome to the live streaming, half a dozen or so, Millie, I think you've set up. So
Yes, got 5.
welcome to those live streaming. And if they ask a question, Millie, they'll do it via typing onto the screen, and hopefully one of us will notice and we'll be able to address their question. So we've modernised somewhat, and that was a little bit last minute. The board said last night, how about we live stream this thing and let's get modern. So we quickly did that this morning. By about 2:30 we were ready to go. So special welcome to GDJ, our advertising agency. Kathy Grant, the directors, is here, Kathy, as well as Amelia and Joss, who are heavily involved in the campaign, and you'll be able to hear from Joss, Amelia and Kathy a little bit later. Monica and I will hog the first half hour or so, and then we'll hand over to GDJ to give you an update on who we targeted, how we targeted them, and how it all went. Okay, and obviously you'll all have your feedback. We're hearing mixed things from exhibitors and the public about seeing the ad, where they saw it, whether they did or didn't. There's some percentages in the reports that you'll see in a moment. So we'll hear from GDJ. You've obviously got Monica here in the front row who'll be co-presenting and is our key. It's okay for me, thanks. And Monica, as our event manager, will have a bit to say as we go along. We've got a board member here in Dave Meehan and Scott O'Hare. Greg, you're on the committee that drove the event along with Mandy, Mary and Katrina from our staff, or Charlie, who's on the committee as well. And everyone else is a special guest here. So other than the people that I've already identified, I mentioned Katrina, who's running the Lake Eildon Boating and Fishing Show, and if anyone tries to get out of here without signing up for that, they'll be taking part in a game of rugby union, and you'll be tackled to the ground and signing up for that event. It's crunch time for that event, and we need you all signed up so that we can power ahead with the event planning and all the activities that are going to go along with it. So she's ready to go with that. And Millie in the front row, I think I've introduced already. And well done on getting the simulcast going. So we'll start with TSB. If you could just remind everyone.
So I'm Ed Allen, Head of Maritime Safety Victoria.
Thanks, Ed. We're not sick of TSB people because we only had 5 of your colleagues at the Australian Builders Plate Forum last Friday. So
did that outnumber the other attendees?
No. And our great sponsor.
I'm Matt from RACV.
Thanks, Matt. I introduced Scott and Danny.
Danny from Aussie Boat Sales.
Boat Sales, David Meehan from the board, Greg, Charlie from the committee, and the guru, Glenn. You want to tell them in one word about yourself, Glenn? They're disadvantaged and people with disabilities, getting them out on the water, boating and fishing from the pier and what have you. And BIAV, we're not an official, they're not our official charity, but they're a partner organisation, and we celebrate that by giving them a free membership and free exhibitor space. So all you other exhibitors, sorry, when you become a charity, we'll talk about free space. But what Glenn's team does with these people is fantastic, gets them into boating, so we're proud of that. So, Michael?
St Kilda Boat Sales Service Centre.
Thanks, Michael.
Anthony Brown from Macquarie.
St Kilda Boat Sales.
Mandy from the committee at St Kilda Boat Sales, down the back there.
Dave from
Fran, you got us over the line with that safety permit for the surf the Yarra thing, thank God. How you do it at Mover, but anyway, down the back stalls.
Justin from Cameroon.
Justin. Yamaha.
Glenn from Streaker Marine.
Glenn.
From Cameroon.
And I'll introduce everyone else. Mary, you don't need any introduction, but Mary, you saw Mary on the way in. Righty-ho, everyone. So getting on with the show, we welcome exhibitors, committee, board, staff, sponsors and GDJ. We've done that. We just want to talk briefly about some of the positives. Exhibitor space was sold out again, full to overflowing in 18 bays, which is good news. And later on, we'll tell you that 84% of you in the survey told us that if you had the chance, you would recommend this event as something to exhibit at. That's very strong news, and that's a strong sign. No way we'll take that for granted, but it is good news. 3 major sponsors, RACV Marine, VW and Melbourne Marine Centre. VW and Melbourne Marine Centre help us with the prizes, as you know. 2 media partners in Pat Callanan and Boat Sales. And an unprecedented prize pool, which I've just mentioned, and that included a triple way to catch tuna with Dave Marciano. We had an international presenter, that was Dave. Solid crowds. We can argue all night about that, but it was just slightly worse than last year. I was absolutely disappointed we didn't go up by a few percent. I was, naively hoping for 10%. That was naive. We did a great deal to try and achieve growth, but we flatlined. Is that a point? Slightly worse than flatline? Is that the economy? Some people say it's a federal election. Some people say other. Some people say all other. Toilets are that way. Numbers are down at other events, sporting events and the like. Even AFL football crowds are slightly down, believe it or not. So we had a lot of positive feedback about the venue in all the surveys and all the anecdotal feedback. Oh, venue looked good this year. That was encouraging. Varying sales levels. We are the experts in that. I've had some exhibitors say we had a great show. Some said it was okay. Some said we got out of jail on the last day. Some said, oh, we just made up the numbers in the day or two after. And a couple said, well, we're still considering that an investment that we didn't quite recover from. So there was varying responses. But it was a great celebration of boating coming together of the industry and all those types of things, which were, I hope everybody enjoyed the event as well as making it good business. But I can tell you that our team, we really enjoy running it. It's great fun. So the review process of which you're part of, that's tonight, the debrief, monitoring any media, social media content. We haven't had any. Last year we had a massive barrage from one particular led person. That particular person was an exhibitor this year and is engaged in a positive way, which is great. The exhibitor survey, which we'll talk about in more detail. We did a public survey, a committee meeting last week, which had a healthy conversation about a lot of things, how to improve. Board meeting last night. Today, recommendations come out of that. Okay, so the whole process will lead to the recommendations that I've just referenced there. How we can make it better in the future, and that's why we're here tonight. So the exhibitor survey, 28% of you replied, probably the same ones that are here tonight, I don't know for sure. Is anyone here that didn't do the survey? No one that's going to admit it anyway. So look, this is I joke, this is slightly better than usual crowd. It's hard to get into the city at 4 o'clock on a weeknight, etc., etc. But 28% only filling in the survey. It's a quick, 20-minute job to help improve the event. A little bit disappointed in that. We gave them heaps of reminders. If you've got any reason how we can make it easier for them to do it, I don't know, but it's still 28% is a reasonable sample. They measure things on large scale, on much, much smaller samples than that. So 28% is not too bad. The research experts over here might validate my comments there, I'm not sure. Males roughly this age are our key respondent. 62% of boat owners of their business. They've been trading a quarter of them 1 to 5 years. Open sites. What they've told us are the factors for success: generating leads, creating brand awareness, and selling stuff. Pretty straightforward. That's why that's what they want to get out of the show. How they rated in those areas: 38%, 43%, and 48%. So good, very good, and poor. So Monica, that means 38%. So 38% they did good, 43% went very good, 48% went poor. Oh, okay. All right. So sorry, everyone. In terms of generating leads,
The average for generating leads, 43%, creating brand awareness, 48% is higher in poor selling products. That's how they rated it.
93% use business social media, 47% their own website, 37% rely on the Melbourne Boat Show social media, which we did a massive amount this year. We spent 4 times as much on social media. We did a hell of a lot more of our own social media to complement it, and Facebook boosts and all that sort of stuff. But the GBJ team will take you through that in more detail. The TV ad, 34% of it's very good, 40% didn't see it. It's disappointing.
Assuming flat out been previously work.
Or like sometimes we don't watch TV on Channel 7 on that sort of game show through to the mainstream news time slot. I never watch TV at that hour, so I didn't see it. At that, I saw it on that hour. I saw it on the football coverage, and I saw it on a couple of fishing shows. So radio, 41% said very good, all good. A third didn't hear. Billboard, 22% excellent, very good or good. A lot didn't see it. Look at that, 72%. We've questioned Billboard over the journey, haven't we, as a group? So we're not sure next year what Jay would recommend about that.
Is that important?
Well, both. I can't remember what this is. So social media, 62% said it was excellent, very good or good. That's encouraging. Thursday, Friday, 34%. As is. 28% would consider reducing the Thursday or Friday time slot. This is controversial stuff. It was only 12 months ago we were talking about increasing to 5 days for next year for the 60th. Now we're saying, well, Thursday. Should we do Thursday? Should we shorten it? Feedback tonight will be interesting on that one. And weigh in at any time. I don't want to hog the go here. Does anyone have a view by the amount of time and effort to set it up, to have it for lesser days, like an Adelaide or a Brisbane?
We want 4 days.
4?
Yep.
Yeah, I still think that's the majority view, but
I wouldn't mind seeing it go, take the Thursday out and go through on Monday.
we used to do that. We did a massive survey last year, and it's like 80% said no, keep it Thursday to Sunday. So then we thought, well, we better be absolutely sure about this. So we then did a backup survey to the biggest 20 exhibitors and asked them, and 17 out of that 20 said no, Thursday to Sunday is better. The Monday, and it was before my time the Monday, but it petered out into a really dud feel, really to most people. Only got 1,500 people, felt like a ghost town. Thursday's half a ghost town, but at least that's building to something. Yeah.
By the Monday, we're all looking at each other going, what can we pull apart? So at 12 o'clock, we're going, oh, let's start pulling down banners. So everybody that walk in, it just looks like we're not interested because we're all brain fried. Probably had too many late nights and too much grog to boot, and you just, nobody here could have shot guns off down the walkways on a couple of Mondays. So dead.
28%. What was the actual figure? I know you said 28, but what was the actual amount?
20%.
Oh, people responded to the survey. What was
28% of 110 exhibitors, so 32 people, something like that. Okay, we'll keep going. Saturday, majority saying keep Saturday as is, 10 till 7. We shaved an hour off Saturday this year. It's the 7 till 8 on the Saturday the year before. It was a bit of a sloppy holiday. Sunday, everyone saying keep it as is. The look and feel. Exhibitors, thank you. That's good feedback, and especially to Monica. 87% said the excellent. Generally positive revenue. Generally positive revenue. There's bits and pieces of criticism, but generally positive. We hear snippets of, the toilets were a mess, but then 90% of people say they were fine. A lot of people say there's no healthy, decent food options, but then you show them the menu, there's plenty. So it's a bit of a trick, that one. The bump into Munro Street, 56 out of 100. So that pass, that's a pass in school language, isn't it? So we'll talk a bit more about the bump in and bump out. But yeah, we're pretty convinced that it was an improvement. Our digital function, that was a really good night. Apparently you couldn't hear me speaking as the MC, the microphone was no good, so that was a bit of a shame. But it was a good evening. The Net Promoter Score, and I've already tabled this as a good stat. 84% of those that responded said they would recommend it. Any business that gets their services recommended at 84% by their customers is over the moon. So I'm over the moon with that stat. So hopefully we can use that stat to build on what we've already got, get more exhibitors in the future. And then we asked one thing you'd like to improve, more accessory products, increase the flow into the shell scheme, and reduce your costs. We'd love to be able to do that. I'm not sure if we can. So that's the exhibitor survey, the key findings. We haven't left a lot out of that, Monica, have we? That's a pretty thorough summary of the findings. Does anyone want to comment on any of that? Okay, I'll keep going until I get questions. So the two surveys that went to the visitors, this is helpful stuff as well. So everyone that registered to win the prize, of which there was over 9,000 respondents, that's a massive survey. And then after the show, we sent out a survey as well and got 1,700 respondents. Decent number, pretty good number, almost 10%. So the age graphic again, look at the men between 45 and 64 is a huge portion of our audience. So that's who GDJ are targeting, largely speaking. John's going to say that? Yeah. I don't want to steal your thunder, sorry. Yeah. So how many first timers? You think, well, the advertising, did it work? 30% of the people there were first timers. That's a pretty decent stat, I think. It's just my opinion that that's a decent stat. But we get told, oh, it's the same people every year. Well, actually, it's not. 30% new people. The biggest negative to that stat is the 30% we lost from the year before. If our numbers are the same, we've got 30% new, we lost 30%. How did we lose them? They didn't have a good enough time last year. We didn't reach them? I don't know. Sorry, not clicking. Reasons they didn't attend, they're not in the market to buy, they're not interested, didn't know it was on. They didn't know it was on, but they got our survey, which was sent to the same group. So I don't know how they didn't know it was on. How did they hear about it? It's usually TV. 32% said word of mouth. In this modern digital era, a third of people said they heard about it through word of mouth. I'm staggered by that stat. I don't know what GDJ can do about word of mouth.
A lot of that would be social media,
Facebook, radio.
But also, if it's your age, the target or the main audience is 45 to, I can't even read it, and they're men, then, you know,
Yeah, maybe
the boys are at a meeting, what are you doing on Friday night? They're at the kids' sport on Saturday, or next weekend I'm going to the boat show. I should have known that was on, you know, so word of mouth. Yeah. Somebody at work, oh, where are you going? I'm just nicking off. Don't tell the boss. I'm going to try and take an hour and a half and nick up to the boat show, you know, because we all know that lunch crowd boosts and then dies off at 2 o'clock when they're all back at work again.
They want a new boat or accessories, or they want to look. The reasons for attending, and this is probably the juiciest one of all, I reckon. This is so crucial. To view the latest products and designs, to view costs for future purchases and a family day out. But look at that first one. Basically, 60% is to view the latest products and designs. So whatever we do in the future, we have to use that as our message. Bigger, better, boatier. Yeah, that's kind of a bit about the newest, latest thing to some extent. But how do we tailor it even more? Because that's what they want. We asked them about winning prizes. I think it was like 2% on the bar chart. We asked them about stage talent. It was like 1 or less than 1%. That's all great stuff. People want that. But it's not the reason they go. To get them in the door, it's got to be about new stuff, new products, something they haven't seen before. Got to do that better.
So was there an increase, 16% family day out? Was that an increase on last year? And the kind of that.
That's the reason why they went, not what they enjoyed once they got there. Because they probably didn't know about the zipper line until they got there.
The question I asked was, what did they enjoy this year and what would they like to see next year, and offered the list. So 2 highest responses was the Pine Summit and fishing simulators.
Okay, carrying along, family day out, we tried to enhance that this year. Look and feel of the show, 90% rated it between excellent and good. It's pretty good stat. Pretty pleased with that. Different reasons why, recurring themes, not enough equipment, too much of the same thing. And one thing to recommend for 2020, more boating accessories, more manufacturers, more competitions and prizes. Cheaper entry, more interactive stalls. Don't change anything. More of the same, more kids stuff. So there's no real theme there, I don't think. None of those answers were multiple time and time again, were they?
Of those, they out of 9,000, they were multiples.
Multiples of a few or multiples?
Of 20s, 30s, it's so varied. It's problem is when you open such a really broad question, they can put in as few as answer. And if I went through the highlighter, which I did afterwards, it was interesting to see that if you broke it down, what was the real comment, which would have been more manufacturing, more boats. And then on the flip side, they were saying, well, no, we don't want the high-end boats, we want low-end boats. So if I took that as, okay, if the people who came to the boat show, or the demographic that might be struggling in affording a boat this year, it mean they aren't in the present looking, but they were saying, it's like a lot of team owners, and the response was that it's, I don't have the money this year. That's how I interpret it. Doesn't mean it's correct, but that's
The market.
Yeah, but if the average audience was a man of 45 to 60 years old, he probably doesn't give a shit about the zip line or the face painting or the touch and feel thing, and if they're, depending on the voting population, then that sort of age group, I would imagine they're just going to see what else is out there, what other products are around, and who's come up with something a bit different. And they're not really owned about it, so they're seeing what their mates are going to buy.
But on a positive note, we probably didn't have this data to start with last year, so you've got to think about what we do as well.
Yeah, some of the data, like a lot of those questions are repeated from last year, so we should be able to make those comparisons.
All right, I want to
So parking never come up at all?
parking.
The cost of
Oh,
parking,
yeah, excellent. Yeah, it is. It was. But it was like, it's one of those, either we took shuttle bus, because
Ask my kids what I complain about every time I drive underneath the stadium to go and watch the Kangaroos. Victory Line.
It's funny you mentioned parking though, because remember 2 or 3 years ago we had that massive debacle with the parking. Didn't come up on our stand last year, and not one customer that I know of this year. So the only time it's really come up was 2 years ago.
we certainly concentrated on getting the communication out to let everybody know there's alternatives.
So we didn't pop
the
it.
next link, because the Becky will promote it too. Let's just think how many shows they have, and the home show, the food show. They just keep pumping it out all the time, and I think we can get better at what we can do through SMS messaging and pumping it out as they come. But a lot of the demographic I think that we sell to are buying your clothes, are really for high rate. People that I know, they don't care about the park. I know them, so you know them, and if they really did, they'd find alternative parking. They just don't. They just want quick, easy, and out.
All right. Any other comments? I'll keep moving. I want to get through our bits as quickly as possible. Allow time for as much comment from you guys. So bump in. So what is achieved in 30 hours is astonishing, I believe. So well done to everyone that contributed and cooperated and got around it. It was a challenging day, the Tuesday in particular. It was fun to be part of. Munro Street, whilst imperfect, was a great improvement. That was the carefully considered opinion of the staff, the committee, and most of the people we've spoken to. Any delays, whilst frustrating, were off-road and in a safe space where other activities could be undertaken. Plan ahead, make a call, check your emails, and you'd rather be moving in, but at least you were doing something constructive. And the delays, from what I could see, and I was hands-on for that part of it, it was anything from 20 minutes through to an hour and a half-ish, or some people will say a bit longer, but it was contained to the best of our ability. We were a bit unhappy with MCEC not being properly prepared with the passes, the thing you had to put on your windscreen. So half of the cars never even got one. They were just told, I'll follow the one in front of you and tell them you were there. That was a bit annoying. They told us they were ready for that, and it wasn't until we got there we thought, well, you're not. So that was a bit annoying. They were not proactive enough and had to be pushed. That was the same as the year before. I had to be out there whipping the whip, which I shouldn't have to do and aren't qualified to do. There were still some queue jumpers. Some people didn't even go to Munro Street. That's the accusation. I cannot name anyone that did that, so don't shoot the messenger on this one. But I'm told from good sources the people thought stuff and I'm going straight in. And if they insist on turning me around, I'll just tell them my car and the trailer's too long. So it was upsetting to hear that, because I mean, Millie and Monica and everyone did such a massive chop to relay to everyone. We even made them write back to us saying, yes, we know about Munro Street. So anyway, possibly too many still arriving at the same time. We don't want 40 boats arriving at 12. We should just stagger it a little bit better, possibly. That's something to think about. Exhibitors on phones whilst driving on the ladders. That was reported from our OH&S people. Again, don't shoot the messenger if you've been accused of that. High levels of out-of-date cables, and the tag and test then became a bit of a headache on the Wednesday. A pile of them still to be done late on the Wednesday. Exhibitors arriving out of order. A lot of people arrived a little bit earlier than they were scheduled. Children on site in the vicinity of boats. And then bump out, generally pretty good. There was a couple of arguments at about 6:30 on the bump out night, and the people that were in row D thought, I can see the door, let me out. But they didn't have a pass to get out early, so they had to have negotiations, and that got a bit awkward at one point. But apart from that, Monica, it was pretty smooth.
Process set up, we go through the card the quickest. And the process was those who could go early had to be in the can be done car park at 5 o'clock. And people at 7 o'clock that didn't have a pass and didn't talk to us and they're there, we had to then just let them in, which is unfortunate, because then everybody else feels that frustration because there's no discussion, you have to let them through, and then they're jumping ahead and all these other issues. Anyways.
Any comment on that? Bump in, bump out?
I totally agree about the boats. You let the whole swag come through at one time. You know, we're unloading semi-trailers. We had a car parked or in the trailer park opposite us, which blocked out one whole complete lane of people getting past. And we had a truck on the right-hand side, which only made one lane getting through. We're trying to unload a truck to get that out of the way, and then you had 20 boats come through at once, which, you know, we're stuck. You know, we couldn't do back all four.
Yeah.
And then we had a guy in the boat saying, well, we don't have to fall, and they're like, yeah. So I think it's going to find the vehicle to move his boat so we can actually move the floor off the truck so we can let all the cars through. So you're right. It's just a little bit more coordination, but 100% improved from the previous year.
100%.
Yeah, it was great.
Feedback.
It was actually
I would have taken 30%.
No, that was great. Big improvement.
This is from one correspondent that phoned in the afternoon that can't be here with us this evening. Move in and move out. No one, again, stuck to their times given. I think that's greatly exaggerated. Most people did. I'd say everyone who's through certainly did.
Yeah.
The only other thing, Steve, on that, one of the ball doors going very close to us.
Bump out or in.
Bump out.
Yeah.
They went to open the door, it didn't work. And that automatically changed who could get out and who couldn't get out. And so we need to probably be a bit more fluid if something along those lines occurs, to be able to say, all right, well, here's some spare yellow slips. Now that lets these guys out, and we actually create a way of solving the problems quickly rather than standing there discussing it for too long, because also
I think too, from our perspective, I was in the same area as obviously Scott and Danny. They were very quick to shut the doors on London. Then you race around and try and find someone. Then someone complained, oh, it's cold and wet movable. It's cold and wet movable. I still need to get my product in. So a little bit quick to do it. And I'm actually going to thank you 100% on the what do you call it, breezeway, whatever you want to call it. They actually, the guys at the bay, the loading dock itself was a bit of a mess because trucks were getting parked, but they were making people pull over to here, and then they would, I tell you, they were just walking off and gone. So I don't know, in years gone by, they've threatened with tickets and that sort of work, but also the doors. Now, I'd be correct on this. I believe the doors had more rubbish. We had two doors open. That seemed to have put a lot of infrastructure there. So we even found it difficult to actually drive in. So unloading a semi would have been a nightmare. I took an 8-ton truck in late on the first day, and that was terrific. And then had to unload it down. So there is hanging of there, and I think people are not being directed.
But I also think, we're all adults, and I agree absolutely too with Andrew, that we need to be smart enough. If you've got a way, or if there's 2 or 3 of you that are going into your stand, and I'm talking about us even, or you guys, if you're going into your stand and there's 2 or 3 of you together, then, make a bit of sense. You can't put 3 boats with 3 cars with 3 spotters all in one hit. So move over, let the next guy, if you're at door 8, the guy that wants to get to door 4, there needs to be some form of, form of thought process that says, we're all intelligent and we don't need to be directed like kindergarten kids. There's got to be some process that says these are the rules, but let's have a little bit of a bend in it, because it makes sense that, 4 boats don't all of a sudden rock up into door 8, because it's just not, it doesn't make sense. There's got to be a little bit of, I don't know how you promote intelligence, Monica, but
I think though, too, it's probably fair to say there might have been slightly more larger trucks there this year than last year, because we did have quite a few more boats on crane. But look, that's only a reasonably minor criticism compared to years gone by. It was pretty soon. Our bump out was great.
I think there was a delay with cranes too, wasn't there? At one stage, they put on some
accident.
equipment or something.
It
which
was
did slow
at the
things
same
down.
time that Rowan was delayed 2 hours. So by the time Rowan got there 2 hours late, trains came
They were
in.
organised.
So they were still late, but luckily Rowan was called in much later than 2 of the others.
No, I was down there standing waiting for our trucks to come in at 8 o'clock. I was down there saying, "We'll let our trucks in." And until you came down, they weren't letting anyone in, and then all of a sudden they'll let 20 vehicles through and lock everything up. So,
And for your site too, the exceptions are that Mercury's in another row, so it's breaking up your site when you come in early. And that's the fine balance, very fine balance of how big are those trucks, how much they're coming in at that early time.
yeah, and we pre-planned it with yourself, which really helped us. And those trucks were early in Munro Street. So yeah, we could, but the time was 8 o'clock. Our truck was there at 8 o'clock, and the next one was there at Munro waiting until that allotted time, because it takes us 45 minutes to unload a truck. So we know how long it takes. Then it takes us 15 minutes to get it to the stand. By then, the next truck's right to come up.
Very good, everyone. That's one of the very important part of our evening. And we can come back to this at the end if we need to. No problem at all. We'll make sure we get through the majority. So the layout we've talked a lot about. Does anyone have any comment about layout that we haven't thought about? How it could be even better? Or are we sort of getting too carried away with our stats? Any great comment? Okay, good feedback generally speaking. Operations, that's just a pretty generic term. I don't know what you want to talk about there. Bumpings included in that, equipment and all that sort of stuff. Catering and cafes, well, the surveys gave us mixed results about that sort of stuff. Does anyone want to make any strong comment about the cafes and catering?
Should be better. I think they don't.
Should be cheaper and better.
Quite often, if you wanted to get a food after 7:30, you really struggle.
What time do we shut down the Exhibitors Cafe?
Yes, in
We're talking about in the halls.
the Met control that, so based upon how many people are attending it, so it's a fine balance between, we want the most control as possible. But if people aren't there and there's no one there, it's like you having your own staff there, they won't pay them to stand there if it's not getting any business. Well, there is one there, but also the exhibitor lounge is upstairs, and we're wondering why we have the exhibitor lounge and people aren't using it, because there's healthy food there, hot food there. And what we're going to do next year is promote exactly what is on offer and the hours, that you can then time your day to go, okay, I've got to get food for this time, and what's going to go from there. So that might help. And on the flyer, so the flyer that comes to your site, we'll put the menu of the day upstairs in the lounge, and then we'll also put in the kiosk. At the time prior to the show that we've agreed that these are the business times, but they might come to us and say, look, it's dead, nobody's coming, can we close it? And we'll go with, yeah, there's no other option. Well,
Well, there's three. So one is kept open, they're never closed. There's three of them up the back, which would have been further down from you.
Monica, I went very cleverly with the Thursday or Friday, and there was
None at all. And what day was it?
I was either a Thursday or Friday.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was Friday was when we had an open for a walk.
Yeah, but it was at about 3 o'clock, because we
We
didn't
need to have all this, if it's a skeleton staff job, you know, like reasonable time.
That's used. Okay, the organiser's office, we were very pleased with how Mary kept that thing ticking beautifully over. Everyone was welcome. All the info was there. Is that correct? Are we all 100%? Thanks, Charlie.
Steve Boats and Moore said that the food was better than last year at the cafe.
Boats and Moore have commented the food was better than last year. So that's encouraging. It's a personal experience. Meeting space. I'm not sure how many of you use meeting space, but there was plenty. Especially most of the meetings I had were in the cafes and stuff anyway. Anything on venue and logistics anyone wants to raise?
About the safety officer, she was delicious.
I was just about to put you on camera, Glenn. Can you say that again?
It was just as we used to John, obviously, over the years, who works with us. But she seemed to be on attack mode.
Well, that's news to me.
Yeah.
That's news to you.
She was a little bit, I think she first up, she sort of had something.
It was like, I don't know what your job is, but my book says it's wrong. So, yeah, we kind of.
Well, that's interesting feedback. Did anyone else have any problem with all down the ranks? Yeah.
I think she must have been on our stand a bit then.
Yeah.
Well, you just when we were setting up that stand and all that, but we didn't have the rails up and we were just beginning. And I think she was on to, from the first time we drove the car in, she was pretty much.
I don't know whether she put out all the bushfires or there weren't any. From last year to this year, it's smooth sailing.
Yeah.
From the organiser's office perspective, she.
Okay.
Yeah, by comparison. So anyway, contractors, rigging. Any comments about the riggers?
I couldn't get out early on Monday morning. I will leave me out. They told me here's a key to the pool.
I can't address that one. That's out of my pay grade. That one.
Kelly, Monday, what did you do about?
5 o'clock in the morning. RACV. I had to leave my boat. Actually, had to leave my boat there, and I had to bring
Time, if it hadn't been organised with anybody, anything, that operated it.
No, the gates are open.
We're talking rigging or craning?
No, you know, I'm in the boat.
Yeah.
Not at 5 later.
Yeah.
Walk through.
Worked out all right for me, but telling me here's the key. That was right.
No, well, you're not entitled to drive the thing. But that's staggered to hear that one. Maybe note that one, Monica. We better give them a wrap over the knuckles if they're. People. Oh, Charlie, you might have a license. No. Audio.
I got the bill yesterday. Very well.
We had no security issues. Our security staff worked well. Well, that was an issue, I suppose, lost children.
I think at the committee meeting, we did a bit more, people were very friendly.
Yep.
This year, I don't know, but it's huge improvement.
Yeah. I thanked a few of them personally, said I really felt like you were part of the work.
Yeah, and the same with the guys on the lady.
Yeah. All right. Cleaning, couple of complaints about cleaning on my correspondence from this afternoon, disappointed in the lack of bins around the place. Any other comments on cleaning?
Toilets were horrendous near us.
Yeah, I had one other.
I was hoping that the Tuesday disgusting toilets was only because they just finished a show on the Monday maybe, and with our show not due to start till Thursday, that there was a bit of a
We've
lag.
already reported that to CEC, who denied it emphatically. They were in a state of shock that we accused them of that. So there's a backup. So we'll check that again.
Yeah, we were told the
Yeah,
same.
which ones were they? So we were at between door 7 and 8. I personally dragged 3 sanitary tubs down and locked them in the toilet because I was sick of looking at the damn things.
That's all right.
Not good.
We've already talked about. I want to add add to the OH&S discussion? Cranes and forklifts, any comments? This year, I think it was all pretty smooth. And a great feature this year, which is pretty boring to talk about, but we got them all in here a couple of times in the lead up. They were a bit more coordinated, which worked really well. So that's good. Event hire, Morton. Any comments on Morton? We were happy to have them next door to us this year, which made them more reachable. Any other comments? Okay, we're moving nicely. How far away do you
Okay.
JR?
I was going to generalise it for contractors. The cost is getting ridiculous. Agility for on-site storage. You know, I'll be up front. You know, last year cost us $1,000 to have more items on-site storage. This year, $6,000. Less stuff.
Is that like a little one of those office things?
No, this is outside storage of metal containers. Well, originally it was $7,000, so I complained and they reduced it by 1,000. And I actually had like 10 cubic meters less, and nothing, no response. It was disgusting. You can hire from Mecca or Agility. Agility were main people to, if you
You're moving stuff in and out. Yeah.
and put all your forms.
Yep.
You fill out, I've filled out a form saying I'm going to have X amount of stuff.
They feel you. Yeah.
It would
That's
be.
what we did with the whole
Well, if
bench
you're
box.
upset and charge for that storage, can't we pay for that space as an organiser and charge it on to the exhibit?
They're responsible for the stock. You can't not handle it. You need to know where it is and how to get it to you. And
We actually packed it, stored it.
Yeah.
They had there was rubbish there, so we cleared out the space and we said, this is the rubbish there. We found bins for it. Here's our items. When
All right, let's look into that. Your idea, Scott, is to use the space.
We
We've
hire
already
some
paid for.
outside space.
We've already got space, some of which we don't use, Mary. Do we?
Does it have to be?
loading dock.
it's metal stillages, I don't care where it goes. No, they're just empty metal stillages.
Space we hire.
That is.
Some of those meeting rooms, we don't have storage space.
Square meterage.
Yeah, 1.5 meters by 1.2
And you
by
gotta get it up and it's heavy.
no, they're just 2 by 2 metal frames. What the engine's coming?
They charged you.
Nearly $7,000. I'm happy to show the invoices.
Yeah, but can you?
Sure.
I think there's an opportunity for us to be able to provide that for the exhibitors, and I mean, it helps across the board for everybody. We should definitely explore that option.
All right, just a point there before I hand over to.
Yeah.
I've got point, the exhibitor complimentary efforts, and we do this okay, I think. We give you the brand and the look and the logo and what have you, and ask you to use it wisely. Some people butchered it, put marks all over it, which is a bit ugly, so our Millie here had to sneakily write to them and say, oh, could you not butcher the brand, maybe have your messages next to it or under it or something. The GDJ team put out the donut opportunity, which didn't really fly, so we're not sure what's the best way to go next year. But we spend around 300 grand on advertising. We have our own network of 25,000 email addresses plus our Facebook followers, and we're reaching out to all them. But if you add 100 exhibitors and all of their collective drawing power and use it as to the best of our advantage, that's what we'd like to do. We're doing it, but are we doing it to the best of our power? We're not sure. So
I'd for a show of hands, who here actually put emails to the database and or inform the database that there was a boat show and they would need
Social media, but not directly to our.
to the database? Yeah. That's sort of the majority, but not quite all that. It's a huge, powerful thing that we need to harness. So
and of those that are here tonight,
you got the proactive ones.
Proactive.
Yeah.
The thing too is that, and I know, like, if you see that, which I loved. Well done. I really thought that was really cool. But if you see that around and you share it, that's well and good. I'm all happy to share it. But then in the same token, I don't want to share a Mastercraft one, but it's still about promoting.
I think
and
I
it's,
did.
no, a couple of times you did. I was like, oh, really? I don't want to share that.
Well, you need to step up then. You should be doing that.
Yeah, so there's a few sort of things where, you know, I think, which in reality is probably, you know, if I put on my Aussie Boat Sales site a Whitley post or a JV post, you know, does it matter? People are walking in the door, they're going to come and say good day to you if they're going to come and say hello to me, you know, so, yeah, so it's a hard one. I think there's probably a little bit of that mentality that, you know, it's all for one and one for all, and we should be sharing because, you know, whoever's friends with me is not necessarily friends with Greg, although they should be.
Yeah, I know that one of your.
Yeah. No, that's right. So I think that was my question. Is the mentality saying like, oh, I don't want to, you know, I want to keep my customers. I don't want to share them with Greg, so I won't tell them that Greg's going to be there, which is stupid because, you know, if he shares it and I share it, it goes around.
All right, well, I'll hand over to Kathy Grant with the comment from my correspondent from this afternoon. And this is not a guy that gives out compliments lightly. In fact, when I saw him on the Tuesday morning for Bumpy, he's greeting to me, and he was only joking with the old 1970s double fingers up, like, good to see you, BIAV. So he's not overly complimentary, and I won't name him, but he said, advertising, this was good, better than usual. So over to you.
Very complimentary, whoever the respondent was. So yeah, thank you for inviting us to come and present the findings. Normally, we do a post-campaign wrap-up to, I suppose, explain the things that we've done and how the campaign's performed. So it's normally to a much smaller group, so this is great to have, although Steve, this is a small representative of the organisation in total, it's good to have so many of you here to, I suppose, to see the findings, because the thing about advertising is it's here one day and gone the next, and you don't know who's seen what unless you've seen the reports and the statistics and followed the heat maps and know where people are actually seeing things according to the audiences that we have. So in terms of our team, I run the agency and have been involved with the campaign, but these two ladies here have been the masterminds behind everything, really. Jocelyn, who looks after strategy and the media planning and buying, and Amelia, who runs the running of the whole campaign and makes sure everything happens and that it all comes together really nicely. So in terms of questions, we thought we'd run through the information we've got and then sort of open it up to questions and planning, I suppose, for next year, because that's the really valuable input for us, is getting your feedback and knowing what things you would like to be done differently, and what things you liked, what things you didn't, and what opportunities there are out there in terms of accessing databases and, you know, I suppose moving things along a little bit. So here we go. Oh, welcome here. Where do we go to?
Put that away. Oh, put that away.
Right now, technology's in here. I'm going to go straight to the TV. Perfect.
Yeah. So just a little. Can everyone see that one? Yeah. So just a little quick summary on the Bigger Better Boatia campaign. So I'm assuming most of you saw it in the lead up or during the campaign. I'm hoping you did. Basically, the tone of Bigger Better Boatia was all about being fun and playful. It had a little bit of that Aussie humour in there to appeal to our target audience. And just, we wanted to inject some personality into the campaign to help it really stand out and be more memorable. So in terms of the show itself, we wanted to kind of create some hype and excitement around the event. And I guess with all the big variety of boats, the number of exhibitors, the activities, we thought that Bigger Better Boatia was a really strong headline in kind of capturing the feel of the show this year. In terms of the actual creative, so this was shot I think early Jan at Martha Cove. So we went out for the day and got the video footage and the photos, which created the hero image here. We hit the jackpot with the weather, thank goodness. And essentially, yeah, we were envisioning a really picturesque, sort of inviting visual, but there was a lot of thought that actually went into the selection of the boats, which we chose here. We wanted to make sure we were I guess, communicating that there was a big range of boats on offer, everything from your small boats to your big boats, so that we appealed to as many people as possible to let them know that there was really something for everyone at the show. And that was pretty much the main thoughts behind it. So yeah, I'll let Joss talk through now the implementation.
Do you want to actually talk to me?
Oh yeah, this was just the TV ad, in case some of you didn't happen to catch it.
At the 2019 RACV Marine Melbourne Boat Show, you'll find over 100 exhibits and boats of every kind. Plus, you can win a Volkswagen Avalon V6 Sport Line or a North Bank 500C boat package. It's bigger, better, and boatier than ever. 13th to 16th of June, Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre.
Great. I'm going to go. So it doesn't often happen, but I remember it's about 7 o'clock one evening in the studio. I went, got it! Finally mastered, getting all of those boats with the right alignment and one not looking tiny and the other one looked huge. So, there was quite a lot of expertise and finessing that went in with it. And when we talked before a little bit about the donut ads, I think if there's a way that you can take that sort of look and feel and hero image, which isn't highlighting any one brand, and put in there some new innovation or new product, that's the reason that people are going to the show. And that's hard for us to put into an ad for that very reason. So that's where we felt they had some real lead. So we understand that it was sort of over and above what your spend commitment had been, so it was a bit tricky. But if we can get that out to your databases and within that look and feel and that hero image, you talk about the latest that you're doing, then it gives people just one more reason to go.
Can you just explain the donut?
Yeah, so the donut image, which if we go back to the print image, that one, so the idea was that might be, for example, the top third of an EDM, an email that you send out to your database, and then the middle bit would be yours. So you can do with it what you like. So it's sort of got the feeling of the boat show, but actually it highlights just what your particular message is. Come see us at stand, whatever it is. Or, we've got a special show offer, all those sorts of messages.
And
it just a little bit extra.
It would work well across your digital as well as your radio. And then if anyone wanted to do regional TV, we had assets ready to go.
Yeah. So we thought, that starting with an ADM social post was the easy stuff, but obviously with a bit more time with it. And the other nice thing was because we're doing all of this social and digital activity, we've got this audience that we recognise are engaging with the show at some level or another, and it's just a new, fresh message to send to them rather than the same one 3 or 4 times. It just gives. Anyway, so if we get more of those happening next year, that would be good. Okay. So in terms of the strategy for the campaign this year, there were sort of 3 main parts to it. One was that, the 2/3 of the audience understand it. They can't see it. They can't see the screen.
No, it's too bright. Yeah.
Thank you. So the 3 parts of the strategy were fairly straightforward. They were to make sure that try and reach your audience who love boats and who want to be there and are passionate about it and are, quite influential, particularly amongst their family and friends. Definitely know it's on and are motivated to come again. But we also want to make sure that we extended that reach to a younger and family audience because that's the generation that's coming through and also gives it a sense of sort of vibe and what's going on. And then finally for us it was, not just about identifying the audience but also trying to think about where their heads are at when they're seeing the ads and making sure they're seeing the ads in different places that sort of resonates at different times through the day. So hopefully they're seeing it once with mum and saying, we should really go to that big fun day for the kids, and another time they might be seeing it with their mates or on their own. So those are sort of the 3 cores of it. And in terms of our split by dollars, this is broadly speaking how we split up the money. So TV was nearly half of the budget, which I think it's traditionally been even more than that. Radio really drove the campaign. We did, really great alignment there with Gold FM in particular, but radio was a great voice of Melbourne. And then outdoor was about the same as the previous year's spends. So it's
outdoor, the billboard.
Yeah, the big roadside digital billboards, on the main freeways.
It's probably because it was only 9%.
Yeah, it was. It was less than that, and it was really identifying a couple of locations that were those main feeders into the area. I've got the full list. South Road Nepean, there was a great one up there. There was another one which was on the Brighton, which is on Nepean Highway, which is the bridge. Hunt Road, Richmond.
So we had some wonderful iconic sites. I think we looked for something around Williamstown. I'm not sure whether we. Tullamarine? Yeah. 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 Oh, we had one on the road to the airport at West Melbourne or North Melbourne. That would be.
I just remember people travelling in and out of the city.
Yep.
Not going to the airport, but people that are heading to the airport.
Yes. Yeah.
We can
So-
double check before we.
Yeah, I've got the full
We
list of
definitely, we
it.
definitely did the north, south, east, west check before we signed it.
And the biggest change we had this year really was the much more spend on the digital side of things. So that was, I'll go through a little bit of the assets later, but yeah, so that's the broad split. Overall, we were really happy. We sort of took a bit of care with all of the media owners to actually sit down with them and get them a little bit engaged and excited. And we tend to work with direct reps rather than the agency reps. So they see a smaller budget and get excited, which is always good for us. So they all, bar none, gave us more than what we asked for, which is terrific. So overall, you know, our spend delivered what would be at a rate book $3.2 million, which is just ridiculously factor of 20, 30 something. 10, all on the media. Yes, but this is the media, so it was about 200 and something. So yeah. Anyway, terrific value in terms of that, and also in terms of just sheer impressions. So this counts the credit line where they're giving away tickets all the way through to the 30-second commercial on news. That's or outdoor, seeing the outdoor, they're all just one impression. We added them all up. We had 50 million impressions out there in the marketplace, which is basically Melbourne seeing the ad on average 10 times. So in terms of being out there and being visible, there shouldn't have been many people who didn't have a chance to see it over the
It's interesting that the statistics then from even exhibitors survey and something that didn't send us in there or hear the radio out
Yep.
of the billboards.
Yeah.
Interesting that it seems like there's good reach, but then
even within that, yeah. Yeah. The breakdown for region, I've got some stats there showing what we did in each of them. So the digital was all fairly much neutral, so that was as much metro or regional depending on where the demand was coming through. And then we had TV and radio in the regional markets as well. So it's really only the outdoor that we didn't extend through because it's a bit limited. Yeah. Yeah. So here we go. So in terms of the coverage, Melbourne obviously being, you know, the biggest draw cut of all, we had the Metro TV. So we had Channel 7 as our lead station, and then we had some activity on Channel 9, Channel 10 just with the fishing shows, and quite a healthy schedule on Channel 31 as well with, you know, 430 spots on across the metro market, and a lot of those were on Channel 31. With radio, we had a mix of Gold, 3RW, Triple M and SEN because we like to spread the money wide. Some of them were a lot more about giving away tickets rather than lots of commercial airtime, but we wanted to make sure that we had that 3AW traditional fishing audience, and SEN being your very blokey right through to Gold, which is rating number 1 at the moment, which is terrific for all people in the FM channel, and gave us that appeal through to a younger, sort of more family audience, so that worked really well. Roadside billboards with QMS we talked about, and then all of the digital. In regional Victoria, we had 7 affiliates, so we had quite a heavy exposure across regional Victoria. We spent quite a bit of money with those guys with, you know, the news and the football and what's the home one they're doing at the moment? Not in Queensland. So lots of the really big programming. We also had the ACE Radio Network, which goes across a lot of the regional Victoria market and through up to Denelcon as well. And then in Tasmania, we went with Southern Cross Lost Stereo Network, which aligns itself with 7 programming again because we wanted to have the football and the news, which seems to be winning on Channel 7. What? Ding! So one of the nice things that I can't remember who it was, there's someone in the room here who helped make this happen. But yeah, so we had the PR launch, which was the surfing on the Yarra, which was we actually got back in contact with our guys at Channel 7 and Channel 9 and the Herald Sun, and there was a lot of making sure people showed up, and we were delighted that Channel 9, I think it was on the 4 o'clock news, Channel 7 goes on the evening news, and the Herald Sun did a full article. So this is the Channel 7.
To take the Yarra, then you might want to give this a go. Champion wake surfer Trent Wardrobe jumped in to surf in our famous river. The small wave is created using special technology that generates a surfable ride in flat water. just try not to fall in. It is a bit brown at the moment. Jane returns with the forecast. Jane, what can we expect tomorrow?
So in terms of TV, we're finding is dropping off, and people who are busy are watching a lot of catch-up TV, and people under 40 are probably only watching it because mum and dad are really. That audience has gone very much to catch up and on demand. But the 40-plus market is still there, and it's still, quite effective at reaching them. So we're in programs like House Rules, 7 News, Channel 9 News, Channel 10, as I said, we just handpicked some of the better fishing shows, so ET and Real Action. Channel 31 with programs like Savage Seas, and then Channel 9 we had stuff like the cricket was on at the time too. So it was sport, news, and a bit of general family entertainment that we went on. And as part of our deal with Channel 7, we also negotiated a live cross. So interesting, I think in previous years you've had the Sunrise live cross, which in some ways is good because you have a bit more time. Today Show with it. The Today Show, they wanted to, I think, triple the spend involved, and their audiences have gone like half since they've lost Carl, Steph and Obi. So Today Show was, given the boot, and we went with Channel 7. And we were in the evening news, which is actually a much bigger audience than Sunrise or Today. So this was live across from there.
And live from the Melbourne Boat Show, there's a type of boat or boating product for all boat lovers on here at MCC for the next 4 days. It was sunny in Melbourne for much of the day, reaching a top of 17.
And then we ran, as I mentioned, quite a lot of radio. So one of the things we did with the Gold FM package was that we sponsored the breakfast show. So I don't know if any of you listened to the Gold FM, but it's a Tommy guy who's become a bit of a legend in England, and he's come over and he's now the Chris O'Connell breakfast show. And that's worked for them quite well. So they're now really doing well. And we negotiated this back in Feb, I think. So the station grew an audience over the month, so we managed to package a really nice deal up for a great rate. So if you listen to the top one, they had a lot of fun with it within the show.
Oh, that's great, Mr. Christian O'Connell. There's been so much boat chat today. I was about to say, it's the Christian O'Connell boat show. Because I know I've also got, I was going to say, the Melbourne Boat Show. And I've also got to say the name of the show. The Christian, what's what you've done to me, Matt?
It's my fault.
The Christian O'Connell Boat Show. Untangle it. You've got the Melbourne Boat Show and the Christian O'Connell Breakfast Show. What a dance. How do I get a show?
I think more people mentioned that they've heard that morning of the breakfast show than most of our ads, but it was good. You couldn't have scripted it. It was great. And they had a lot more fun through the day. So they ended up like ringing us and saying, quick, we need 10 more tickets because, we promised everyone because we kept stuffing it up that we'll give them a free ticket to the show. So we had to. Yeah. Well, 3AW still breakfast is number 1 overall on the AM dial. So he's number 1 FM. But certainly beating the Triple M's and the Foxes, which is a bit of a change. And then the others are, we've just got an example there of the Triple M, the Rush Hour, which is just a credit where in some ways it's not the full 30-second ad, but because it's part of the programming, it often cuts through really well. So if you've just got a simple message, these credit lines work well. And really the cost is just the cost of the ticket.
This is going your way, mate. You've won a family pass to the RACV Marine Melbourne Boat Show, June 13 to 16, the Melbourne Convention Exhibition Centre, or Jeff Shed.
Enjoy that, yeah, mate. And find something to raise.
It's good that they held the title because in the news they strip off.
Yes.
Yeah, that was good. That was like
And then the last example we've got there is the 3AW Live Cross, which we had gold as well, but 3AW, do a nice little, we download the show.
Live for the 2019 RACV Marine Melbourne Boat Show this weekend at the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition. The boat is a one spot. It's brilliant. Victoria's annual celebration of the positive and rewarding lifestyle that boating provides. Be sure to grab a bit of a guide booklet as you walk in the guide in. You can start your adventure. And it's a very fancy canoe. I'd like to see. I enjoy that. With over 100 exhibits and boats of every kind. Some very cool sort of boating accessories here. Plus, simply by being here, you can win a beautiful Volkswagen Amarok. Plus, the chance to win a North Bank $500 well, there's stage presentations across the weekend for everything you need to know about the exciting world of boating. It's bigger, it's better, it's boatier than ever. This weekend online, you can find it at melbourneinternationalboatshow.com.au.
The image we've got there, as we're seeing with everything digital, sort of blurring the lines with traditional media. So a lot of people are now sort of checking into the radio station's websites. So that's the Gold FM's win page. So if any of the promotions they've got online that they're talking about, on air, people will go and enter by going to their website. So they're slowly gaining a bit more traction. So one of the nice things that we sort of got them to throw in here was that we owned all of the real estate on their win page. So no matter what competition you were going to enter, that was sort of like on the home page was all about us. So that's quite nice. So these are a couple of examples of the digital outdoor site. So this is the one that's the Brighton, and this is probably because it's my commute that you've got the Tournament of Ben Highway. But at night and on those, actually that's the Eastern Freeway. When you get those grayer days, the colours of the water and the sky were just fantastic. The artwork looked really good. And then the last map is a heat map. So this just has a look at those darker purple and dark reds are where most people have seen the outdoor sites. So if we talked about where they were located, this actually shows you a bit of the opportunity to see. So we've got certainly that coastal area around the inner west and right down through the southeast, really well covered. And then there's pockets here and there elsewhere outside of it. So that's the kind of thing we can manipulate which sites we go with. But this was, a lot of additional sites as part of page 2. And then in terms of the online, so one of the nice things about the web environment is that because you're quite trackable, there's lots of different ways that we can find people who are relevant to our audience. So obviously we looked at geography, we also looked at age, we looked at interest. So are you interested in fishing, boating, snorkeling, whatever? We looked at the Facebook and Instagram fans that BIAV have already got. We looked at people who said they went to the event last year. And then we also created a lookalike. So it sort of said, okay, well, those are the people who went last year. Let's go and find a whole lot of other people who have similar characteristics, demographics and interests and things and wait for them. So that's the sort of targeting we looked at online. And these are sort of examples of the kind of artwork we did. So you've got things like a really nice half-page ad, which looks fantastic, that one on the left, but there's not a lot of those spaces around. So we also run, your traditional MREX and your leaderboard, which is at the bottom. We also ran some video, and we also ran some activity with Spotify. So Spotify is basically just listening to music, and if you happen to look at it, you'll see the visual images as well. But it's sort of being able to tap into people who are in sort of coastal areas and boating areas and actually getting them involved and listening to the radio. So quite hyper-targeted geographically.
You know, if the iHeartRadio, which is the app that people can catch up radio,
yep.
Does that have advertising in it? Or do they just run what goes to where straight? I've never listened.
Yeah, but well, all my experience of iHeartRadio is it's the streamed version, so you get the ad breaks. When we work with the likes of Triple M and with Fox, they actually replicate the same ad break across all 5 of their stations. So with Triple M, they've got a greatest hits, they've got a country, they've got a rock, they've got I can't remember the last one. So the music will run whatever the music is, depending on the format, but the ad break will be the commercial ad break. So you book one spot on Triple M, and then on the digital side, you get 5 stations going up. Yeah. So, and one of the other really nice ones, going to the next slide, we did was Big Mobile. So Big Mobile are able to identify you by the device that you have in your at all time, which is your phone. So it's not at all creepy. It's not at all finding you where you are, but it actually does. So they were able to look at people who attended the show last year, which was terrific. So that was the starting point. And then we also got them to look at people who've been to boat retailers, who have been to boat ramps, who have been out on the bay, who've been in various fishing areas. So if your device had been in those locations, they were able to identify you. And then you were served the MREC ad, which had like that swipey thing. It's a little creepy. Yes, yes, it is.
That's basically the data Google and Facebook is selling, right?
Well, it's kind of, if you've got an app open and it's got 3 ways of verifying your geolocation down to a pretty thing. It says 2, it says you're rejected, but if it gets 3 verifications of where you are, it says, right, we know that device is in that location. It now becomes part of the audience you can send the ad to. And then we send you the ad, which sends you to a lovely landing page, which sends you to buy the tickets and all the other stuff. It's all right there on your phone without you having to do anything. And then when you go to the show, it says, hey, you're a person who's seen the ad and you've been to the show. That's a sort of a proof of performance that you've had, the opportunity to see the ad. So pretty cool stuff, but also slightly creepy. Facebook and Instagram, obviously, also really important. The Facebook for the 40+ market and the Instagram for the youngies, if you like. And we try to sort of get some more of those sort of big full screen images to get that sense of engagement. And there's just some examples there. What we did, coming up generic, and then we did this weekend, ends tomorrow, all those sorts of messages as well. So we've got here just an example of an event ad where you can say, I think I'm interested in going, and we can track that sort of stuff as well. And then we had some boosted posts as well. So you've got Dave Marciano in there, you've got the Surfing on the Yarra, and just a post from the boat show that probably came from you. So it was a combination of straight ad ones, but obviously having a bit of flexibility with other messages is great. And I think that's about it.
What worked the best? What was the best reaction?
Well, we had a really good reaction from the North Bank boat. That was good. Look, to be honest, it got quite granular, and there was a lot of information that was relevant on bits and pieces. So we found that we probably needed to get more refreshment in terms of the messages that we were using. So we got a bit of a plateauing. And
that's where I think
yeah.
We can then just keep
Yes. Yeah. And I think we've picked up on quite a few people who are saying sort of like, I'll go to the event and sort of registering that so their friends could see. And I think there's an opportunity again to say, we've got an audience who are interested, maybe sending them other reasons to go, so they've got reasons to invite family and friends along would also be really good.
It's like developing the story, because people can only like the boat show. Yeah, and then so it's all about the content.
Exactly. I think with the having the prize draw, that created a lot of activity where people were commenting, tagging friends.
Yep. Oh, Dave Marciano went off too. It was hugely successful. Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Marciano, we had the most likes and comments and shares that we've seen on our social media, just like the BIAV one that I run. And yeah, the prizes were really popular as well. We had Dave blew it up, and then after the boosted posts, we had lots and lots happening on our Facebook and on the Instagram as well. People were loving it, commenting, liking it, sharing it.
Yeah.
Dave, prizes, and some of the other presenters as well, like Paul Worsling and Paul Carter. People were really commenting, tagging their friends, that kind of thing as well. Yeah.
Taken with Dave and posted it because our international sales manager for Chaparral and Navarro was like, I'm coming to the Melbourne because he's going to be there. And he didn't. So I went up and said, can I get a photo? And I shared it and I sent it predominantly to Tom, who's our sales manager in Chaparral. And I had 10 people on our Facebook page say, who is that?
What do they know?
We're not a fishing boat brand.
Yeah.
And I actually went, I don't know how to spell his last name, so I told the question. Because I didn't know who he was either. But,
He said nobody.
So I just posted a photo because I could, but we're not a fishing boat.
Danny, we got rubbished also for calling Trent Wardrobe a champion wakeboarder.
If you're looking at the show, then you could have like a good old-fashioned stick your head in the whole photo board. Or cardboard cutouts and stuff like that, all very Melbourne Boat Show. Something to do when you're there.
Things for them to do while you're checking out the latest
inside a whale's mouth or something like that.
There's a really good one down at Docklands, and it's about the biggest fish. You put your head in it and measure it. I've got a photo of it, just trying to get it.
There's also that, which is not, but there's also that wave out the front at Phillip Island, at the front of the rift shop at Phillip Island. How many people have had their photos taken on a fiberglass fishing board inside the fiberglass wave? That kind of share posted stuff. Yeah. I was just saying, sorry. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Josh, give invited questions.
Yes, yes.
So, are there any questions, comments, any advice? Any feedback, Dave?
Look at, I think everything I've heard tonight is all about you. I think everyone that's read this, we're going to go to the show next year. Somehow you've got a product. But, I think we've got to push not only the buy message, because that affects all of us, but I think I've got to agree with you, Steve. I think you was that survey. And we have to invest to support you as well, as dealers with new product.
Sorry, can we go to David?
Maybe trying to drag
Other things to do.
I do that, so all our seniors get free.
But I mean, people from Ballarat and Bendigo and come to the boat show, stay a weekend, and make a weekend. But to go, we get a lot more people. The boat show is a little bit.
Yeah, you need to be more.
Yeah, we need more attractions.
You might be able to help with some of that. We went, I mean, that's like going to them early enough and saying we want to plan a regional campaign. What else?
Put your boat show ticket online, produce something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good thing.
Well, we sent out to our members, there was an offer to come.
Time with the Melbourne Boat Show sponsor the score update. So, they're great at segueing halfway through a football match.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
The RACV Melbourne Boat Show scoreboard.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah. Even if it's just for that weekend, they're already there. So, open till 8 o'clock tonight or whatever.
Yeah, so I think once the date or the date might already be set for next year, once those things start to fall.
Just the dates. And on the database side of things, is it feasible for early on for Millie as the BIA social media to visit the dealership, particularly dealerships, but everybody who's got a database and help teach them, encourage them, assist them in getting the message out.
The short answer is yes.
Yeah.
Great idea. I just don't want to pay for donuts, Kathy. All right, let's keep it one at a time. Go on.
So just with Royal Auto, changing format at the time from monthly to bi-monthly, and there was a heap of issues, so it was an incredibly difficult fight internally for that, but so next year we really want to.
Yeah, I would have thought, I mean, I've been broke up with that magazine, but I would have, put it this, I mean, look for it, look for it, and last year we found out after the event, as just a little thing, but I would have thought there's a perfect opportunity and a whole collection of people that
Absolutely.
that
We
have access to.
we discussed that in our
But, yeah, I sort of thought it was a
debrief.
bit of a responsive point of view that could have been.
Yeah, so our readership has now gone up with the change in format, and we're also producing more online articles. And so now that the business has seen uptake of that, we're going to definitely push for more.
Do you think the online stuff, I think that would be the most useful part? Because then we can drive.
The magazine
Oh, no,
has been around forever.
You've got to also look at the demographic. If visitors were 45 to 60. There's a lot of people not online.
And it's a good tourist
The
sort
other,
of book,
the other question I had on that was, is there any avenue to somehow, I know it's a difficult question, but in our household, it's The Voice, House Rules and MasterChef and the remote, right? So,
I was good with the remote. So-
I was going to say,
but the point is that to see an ad on any of those three shows is not easy because boom, it's changed before the, when you realise it's going to an ad, find the next show. So I know they do top and tail advertising on those shows, and whether or not it's possible to have in that particular week something that is part of the show.
Part of the show, yeah.
Whether or not they renovate a boat on House Rules, or whether they renovate or do they go out with Charlie and catch the fish and cook it on MasterChef.
If you volunteers with your kids,
There's got to be a way of trying to get those shows to promote us.
That was going to be my question. He says, how much is fishing and how much is pleasure? I think that goes in there. I've got the same problem. Our future is what you've got to bring on the kids and everything like that. This year I saw nothing except the fisheries and a little bit of or anything offering for the families.
There actually was a bit. There was probably more than we've had in the past.
But there was, do you know what books? Family, the fishing, I see it all the time. Charlie, I'll tell you, right? It's not for parents. It's the kids.
Yeah.
You get a kid out there fishing, and you're like, we could have done this on the Yarra. I don't know how many that Johnny come lately. But if we, like, say for instance, we were actually down there fishing with the kids, right? The parents would have been in there, they could have left with us, had a bit of a fish. I've done all that kind of stuff on the Yarra.
I think voting
And then
across the board.
the kids get booked.
Hey,
We need to capture children.
Priority, I think we gave up 50 to 100 grand's worth of floor space that we could have tried to sell to exhibitors. For the zip line, for the face painting, but we want to keep improving on it. So if you've got specific ideas, speak now or put them in a doc point in an email. And we'll
They're good.
anything that makes a family experience better. Average hang time at Equitone with the showground, 9.5 hours. Average hang time for us, 3.5 hours. Okay, why is that? Now we're never going to match that because we don't have horses and
Plenty of horsepower.
So we want to increase the hang time. So family activities.
I think we definitely need to be targeting that, 20 to 30 age group of younger people. That it's not, we won't have an industry if young people don't take up any form of boating, whether it's fishing or sailing or, wake surfing, whatever it is. There needs to be a group of, obviously mum and dad need to be able to afford the boat, but there's a hell of a lot of trades people out there that are earning good money.
Well, we only had so much time.
It's a tricky one because the numbers clearly say the people that turn up to the show are that age group. So you've got to let them know the show's on.
You've got to get more of them.
Now, the argument is, of course, that the flip side is that if we didn't market to the younger age group, those numbers could be different if we had it. So, somewhere along the line, you've got to ease your way into that other age group, and it's great to explore that.
Yeah, I don't know, like another I don't
My son saw it on Spotify. And I get more shares from his friends who are that 18 to 20 age group. I get more shares from his friends than I do, general. And most of our people on our Facebook and those kind of are our customers. So they might see it and read something and go, oh, that's nice, but, they might have bought it back for us 6 months. But it's, only House Rules, other than that is sport. The rest of those television programs were fishing. It's not our main.
But Steve, you can split it again too. So we've got, let's take Charlie, and myself as an example. So What we should be looking for now perhaps is what was the age group of people we sold product to, you sold product to, and what was the age group of the people that Charlie got fishing charters out of, because from my perspective, it's going to the show to sell boats. So I don't care if you've got 3,000 people, if they all want to buy, I'll be happy. So,
If they stay for 10 hours.
yeah,
or 3
so
hours.
my personal perspective is sell boats like most of the people in this room. However, you've also got to look at the other people, whether it be insurance or whether it be fishing charters. So there is, even though the figures are very good, and I'll get to this, I don't care how many people come to the show with such as quality, but the demographics we need to tell you. We need to tell you what the age group of people we sold boats are. I'll be fairly certain it's in that age group. I would.
Do you guys
But,
actually
you know,
do surveys yourself? Is it
Well, we can tell you those numbers because to ensure we won't be able to give hand over a data.
I can give it,
But if you did a survey, a small survey that said, got some questions, please answer these, and even if this group can get some
But if
information.
you ask Trent, who buys Malibu ski boats or who buys ski crafts? It's not 50-year-olds. And do they buy at the boat show? But there is some of those parents, but see, there's still a breakdown of figures that perhaps as an industry we need to give to you, Steve, and say, hey, yeah.
Is there learnings we can get from surveys you've got from this year, such as, and mind the survey results? I need to look at the data.
The sales data would be really handy.
Yeah, as well. I'm seeking this, but also look at where they come from, or metro or regional.
And those fencing, you said there's feedback available from who owned the.
Yes, not really detailed.
So can we dig into that to find out the suburbs?
Yeah, we did get some information back. So one of the things that they tracked was, obviously who came back to the actual show. And we did get suburbs out of that one. And I think there was some Williamstown over that was like number 1 or 2, I think. But yeah, definitely.
We're only 15 minutes from we move in faster than anybody else does because we've got the list.
Most of the boat manufacturers, the big ones, mate, they develop their boats purely for the boat show. A fishing boat, put all their R&D with all the shipping motors, etc. on the actual boat, developed for the boat show regarding fishing. That's facts. So all the big boys, the Haynes Hunters, Bar Crushers, all those guys there, they're developing their boats because fishing is changing all the time. We're going further offshore now for tuna and pollen, etc. So they're developing bigger and better boats.
Fishing is definitely the biggest.
With bigger horsepower. So that's something that we really need to tap into. We need to go to these places, tell people what's happening as the boat's getting developed.
On the age brackets of the travel packages that I sold in 18 on retailers, count on one hand how many were in the 45 plus. Everyone was young people, young families, all getting in boating. Every boat motor trailer package I sold was aluminium under 50K, pretty much bar 2.
Yeah, that's generally something you tell us.
Yeah, I'll yeah, well, I'm no longer with that dealer, so we had a fairly good show.
Really good feedback. Just on that and that feedback, because reading through the survey and over that things coming through, boats are too expensive, want more boats. Yet at the same time, if we know there's a decline in the economy, if we know it's really tight, that's hit the nail on the head to say that the buyers are wanting to buy, but they're buying just a lot. I don't mean to be insulted, but if they're going to buy, they'll buy, and maybe the entry point for them at this period of time is going to be at the lower end. And other businesses, and that's what we don't know for new businesses, we don't know what that feedback is. What are they buying? Now, if this year is a decline and they're not buying high end, what are they buying? And that's really good insight.
So only some high end. I think it depends on what the economy has. There were some factors like elections and so on. I think labour voters were probably in shock around that time, so they all wondered if they're going to have a job next week. So I don't think this year necessarily is a fair thing to look at, but the entry level we're finding in our price bracket has dropped off, and it's the top end that's doing well.
Not at the boat show.
But not at the boat show. So we had to really work hard to, put deals together after the show to make it a worthwhile
So it's
exercise.
just at the boat show you're seeing that the sales were as strong.
No, yet all of the indicators were prior that it would be. We worked very hard. It's a polycraft product. We worked very, very hard to push that product. We had a lot of promises on the table. We'll get to the show. We'll take advantage of the deals, and it really didn't fire. In the last sort of short period of time, we've started to sell. So, you just don't know which way it's going.
All right.
Do you analyse it to death?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I wanted to do that. Try and bring it back to our agenda somewhat. Is there any specific commentary, comments, feedback, questions for GDJ? Try and focus on what was presented on the campaign. If not, I'll continue on. We're on 12 slide of 18. The last few are very quick. So, Mike.
One of the biggest comments that came through was people heard about it through word of mouth rather than where we put most of our money into television. Yeah. So we changed it around so we put more money into the digital side rather than
That failed. We only got 21,000. That failed badly.
But is that word of mouth from dealers actually saying, hey, the boat show's coming up?
Correct. And Nick James actually made a comment to say sometimes in people's heads, there is just a default, just because maybe they've got a survey, it's just the easiest one. That's just
I think there is some need to look at that data and go, are people just saying they heard it word of mouth rather than, I always find that a difficult one. Yeah, you can tell.
We can figure out how to do it better. We should try. Anything else for GDJ?
The only thing I've got for everyone in the room is that it's a big occasion next year, and the more stories we can get, the better the social content, and maybe that's
And the
we have,
PR story.
yeah, and the PR stories to get the
We
young
don't really
people
have
in.
any PR to work with until like a week before, really.
Last
we don't
thing you
think
said
there
that.
are ages. That's going to generate more PR and more word of mouth.
A little bit careful with just, dealerships, and JV is probably the biggest trail boat dealership, and particularly in this room. It's dangerous to start marketing or PR too early because people say, "Whoa, I'm waiting for the show."
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
all of our cash draws stop opening because people aren't coming. So it's a fine line.
Yeah, and we're trying to be guided by you, what you want to say.
Perhaps Charlie's comment about the all new product, where they are, there's a product on its way that will be released at that point. If people are thinking of buying and they're prepared to wait for that product, that's okay, but got to be a bit mindful.
Not available.
Yeah.
Within the electric range, that is the story.
It can be like
Well, I
electronics.
think I'll say it again. I think next year, whatever we have as a group, we have to go in there and it's got to be the biggest, it's got to be the best, it's got to be the newest. It's got, well, I think that can go. But,
the latest and the greatest.
Yeah, no, I just think, and that's probably what we want to sell product. We just think,
Well, those of us heading to Sydney in a couple of weeks. Yeah. Oh, what am I going to say? What's going to be new?
oh, it's going to be pretty good. Good tricks, to be honest.
Creative. Melbourne Boat Show, bigger. Bigger than a boatie or bigger than a logo.
Bigger than
Boat Show.
the event itself.
That was something that we spoke about.
Yeah.
Just wondering whether it should be the other way around.
I think the campaign's got to capture the imagination, and then the name of the boat show isn't necessarily the campaign. So I think it's just getting the balance right. This is the launch of that creative. I think it had pretty good feedback across the board, and it'll start to build brand recognition for the boat show, because the plan is to keep production money sort of moderate and to allow more money to go into media and telling the stories to develop sort of the brand equity now in this and let it continue on.
I think as a brand that works. I mean, that was everybody that's the boat show. And I didn't see it much on telly.
I'm too busy to watch TV.
But you know, I think it was recognisable that you saw enough of it. But we did have talk about changing the logo.
Changing it again. All right, everyone. I'm going to continue on through the slides. We're nearly there. So thanks, GDJ. We know you're not leaving the building. So thank you. I thought that was a very thorough and detailed presentation of what happened and why. So hope you enjoyed it. And there's no reason why you can't give feedback after tonight. If you think of something in the morning,
or if you'd like to deep dive into any point of the data, let us know. We'll do that.
which billboards in the west. So in terms of the ticketing, the pricing, it's always contentious. If we halve the price, would we double the crowd? If we halve the price, would we increase 10%? If we halve the price, would nothing happen? Adelaide had a half price ticket last 2 weeks ago. If you came with your footy scarf, it's an important income stream for us. Our gate income's about 300K after we pay all the people that do the ticketing, and our advertising about 300K. So I think it's pretty standard.
Sometimes below Sydney, we can check the latest events, whether it's International Flower Show or something at the showgrounds. We'll do another review, and it's interesting each year, everybody's doing something slightly a little bit different, so we can certainly will review it.
And you can see here, this year on the Thursday we've got a couple of hundred more, the Friday a couple of hundred more, Saturday a few hundred less, and the Sunday a couple of hundred less. So overall, we're 300 or 400 down. And as I said at the start, disappointing. But there's lots of factors.
On the Friday night, was that taking into account all of the exhibitors that were scanned as we were walked in, or was that just in ticket holders?
No, that would have been everybody that was scanned through. So once you scan through once, you scan through.
These attendance numbers.
They include everybody that was scanned. Yeah. I mean, a lot of exhibitors get through.
As it would have been last year.
Sorry. So, lots of reasons. You mentioned the economy, you mentioned the election. Last year we said it was on the school holidays weekend, so we thought that was no good. So this year it wasn't.
But then we talked about RDOs and something else. I can't remember what it was, but RDOs, because the holidays have been the week before, there was an RDO attached to that. So we lost that RDO day, the training might have set it up. So it doesn't matter when or what you do, if it's in that general time zone.
Sorry, Scott.
Yeah.
So back on the ticketing, there's just a stat that we're seeing an increase of sales online. We have differentiating price difference this year of tickets online and at the door to really show people that if you don't want to line up, do it online. Once people invest their money into the show too, they are more committed. So just over the last couple of years, well, we've got this year and last year, we're seeing an increase. Even though it's been slow, but first time we're really seeing a difference, which is good. That's what we want to achieve. Just generally across the board, I'd have to break it down, but across the board, we're seeing more people, and we hit it harder to make sure to encourage people to buy online.
And the RACV tickets.
I don't know the number.
Temps, yeah, sorry.
115.
On the RACV.
115 of our ticketing income came from RACV sales. Yeah.
But that was definitely a big increase.
And I think it's good too because people don't think it's going to be sold out of the event. So there's no reason to commit. Then, you can book online and you see what the queue's like really. So, if you can get people to commit early, that's really quite valuable. So keep building on it.
Okay, I feel like I'm going to start losing everyone soon, so I'm going to power through. Exhibitor communications, all the site planning stuff, the website, and the exhibitor section in particular, the manuals and the guides, the new move-in process where we smashed that. EDMs, which we did frequently and are still doing. We did one last week to you, talked about a few things, including a follow-up thing we did to all the masses to get out and see your dealer buy a boat, office in general and other. So any comment about how we communicated to you?
I didn't hear you in the vote and I was going to be able to go on
Okay, I can't remember. We did an announcement over the speaker. We certainly did that.
Robbie, I think.
We put it in EDMs in the lead up.
We had a set time.
Yeah, the text message system. Same
It was
thing
under
when the
stage
minister
time.
was speaking. All right, can't answer that immediately, Charlie. Anything else on exhibitor comms? Stage, MC, Robbie Nethercote. We're just completely impressed with Robbie Nethercote. Is there any other feedback other than that? I'll take it that most people agree she's a good operator.
We did talk about the stage. Having the owner of the banking space, or space, and we're not much walled space as what there was.
I'm not sure it's necessary.
The first year,
I think it was a good move, don't you? I think having it moved, I don't think it needed to be that big stage with that big space with all those chairs in front of it.
And I've got photos here of people queuing out, trying to see Dave, particularly and Worsley, but I don't think that you, I don't think.
Was that all for all discussions?
No.
Or RACV? Or only for 2 or 3?
No, even more than that. The point is, if you pay money, you would sit down with your family, see whatever, whoever it is, and you're standing there. Right, I'm not saying these people like before. All definitely made it hard.
And having that vehicle.
Yeah, it has to be a compromise. It was just.
I think we definitely need the car and the boat. If we have them next year, should be somewhere else. It's prominent, front entrance, possibly under lights.
Yeah.
And we can open it up a bit more. We were very caged this year because we were nervous. Someone next door is paying 60 grand for space, and they're being inundated. Pleasantly, they're getting a lot of humans coming in, but meanwhile they're trying to sell something, and there's this massive distraction. We just weren't sure. Yeah.
But, you know, if you're paying that money, let's sit down with your kids, mate.
Yeah. So, look, generally speaking, we got good feedback about the stage talent, but we know for sure they're not the reason people go. And the Marciano thing, we thought it was quite successful. It generated a lot of interest, probably dragged a few through the door, not sure how many. According to the research, not many people actually put that down as the reason they went, but the model worked. So we put in our EDM to you guys recently. If you can think of a concept for next year, this year we did a joint venture. So Savage Seas chipped in, Lone Star Marine chipped in, RACV Marine and RACV chipped in big time, accommodation for the guy, 18 nights or something, plus a cash contribution. So we all chipped in, all 4 parties, and made it happen. So the model worked. So we could possibly do it again, but you want to make sure it's a household name, Danny, not someone that.
No, I don't think it's a good idea, but I think it was nice that somebody did.
Righto. What else we got? Events. We were happy with the official opening. Very good for us to have the minister there telling the people that she's going to invest a truckload of money into boating, which means the facilities are going to be better, which means you guys sell more stuff. That's the whole idea why we campaigned last year. To have the minister stand there and say, we're going to invest at least 30 million a year for as long as we're in government into your boating infrastructure. That was music to my ears. Our digital function, we've talked about that already. That was a success. The Apprentice of the Year awards worked nicely. We could do more with apprenticeships and getting them there, but this year all we could do was that, which worked. The VIP function, those of you that were able to get to that, that was a successful event. Licensed courses and tests, they chugged along okay. The zip line was very popular. The Iron Summit rated highly in the surveys. People loved that. I don't know, did anyone go on it? Millie? Monica?
Great.
Does anyone do any work?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went past it about 5 times, but I used the excuse that I was too busy, but I was too scared.
It was fun. It was good.
And the welcome counter, you can see the photo there. But Monica, that's not your bloke, is it?
At the very back.
On the back right, that's Mason, yeah, and it's mate in the front, I presume. So the people on the welcome desk did a good job. There was some comment that not everyone got shoved a program in a bag. That's why we got the leftovers, which please take as many as you want. You can use them for all sorts of useful activities. Please take a pile, hand them out. But all that stuff generally worked. Any comment on any of that or anything else?
I just thank RACV and their girls because they worked for 4 days. So great. They were really making sure the whole crew did, but just having that extra help, they were great.
Sorry, I meant to hone in on who you're talking about.
To the girls in blue from RACV.
All right, the prizes, unbelievable prize, 450 grand's worth of stuff given away. Again, it's not why people come, but hopefully it makes them all say, I had a great experience, good memories. They want to come next year, they might win the car. I still want to win the Mazda at the football one year. Scan to win, and Scott, you had a lot to do with that. We gave away a 12-month lease at Wyndham Harbour, valuable prize. Oh, next time, 11th of June, that's again straight after the long weekend. Thursday to Sunday at this stage. 60th anniversary, and the board signed off last night. We're going to have a 60th anniversary dinner on the 9th of May. Please save the date. We want you all there for that. 150 seats have been booked at an expensive hotel, so lock it in.
Black tie.
Black tie, they want. Okay, so everyone, thanks again. This has been a very valuable exercise for us. I know Monica's taken a heap of notes. I sense GDJ have got good
Really great feedback.
And we can continue on. Millie, is there anything on the live stream we need to address?
Just some extra comments, but no questions or anything.
Anything that you think's of great value? I can't read that small writing, unfortunately.
The guys at Boats and More said perhaps, this is from earlier, perhaps you could consider providing a discount for exhibitors willing to share their databases for marketing purposes. And Rowan said food variety and quality was better down near the back, near the zip line, and he ate there mostly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all.
Is there anything of great importance anybody wants to raise that we haven't covered? If not, I'll invite you to stay for a biscuit or a donut or a cheese and biscuit or a coffee. So open floor for a moment.
Steve, obviously, a question about
yeah.
That's something that I took a walk around the show. I struggled to find a photo on the feed page. So I don't know how we achieve that. I'm just making this a statement of the way that we can, I don't know, encourage some level of use of the force field about giving that entry to the buyer and the new customer.
Yeah.
Because we've got to achieve that. But if the deal's going to take place,
well, you're going to create a mindset that boats are too expensive. And if you buy a $26,000 boat, 50-50 with a mate, keep it for 7 years and then sell it for $19,000, it's cost you less than a golf club membership, or much less. So there's a mindset that we can help with. Yeah, I don't know how to do it, but let's do it.
Put your things out there. You've got to think. You get that space to them for free.
Yeah.
You've got to put a staff member on it.
Well, they don't. They put a sign saying "Come and see us at 22C."
That's
not a problem, Gregory.
We've tried it a few times.
All right, that's Monica. You know, you got that. All right. Anything else of great importance, everyone? Got that. They have been in the past a bit too cool for school for us, but and make another attempt.
Does anyone here have a contact?
I contacted them last year in regard to. Sorry.
They're older than you, Grant.
I know, that's why we did that.
Audio, AFL connections, is it? Monica, I know we've tried, but let's just agree that we'll reload on that. Anything else, everyone? Going? Fantastic. Thanks very much. Katrina, you spring into action now. No one leaves this room without signing up for Lake Eildon. Mary, help.
Want to give your watches a wave?
And to the onliners, thank you very much.